Hey guys, this is Post-Production Pi, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys just how to use the SLR Lounge Vintage Action Set. Now in this tutorial we're going to focus primarily on using the base Vintage Pack since it's kind of the foundation. We're going to focus on using that along with those tweaks to really perfect your image. But all the principles and everything that we teach you in this apply to every one of the action sets. And with the naming system, it'll be really easy for you guys to, mix and match, get exactly the look that you guys want. Alright, so the SLR Lounge Vintage Action Set is designed to be used with color-corrected images. Now, what this means is that you don't need to perfect the image. It just means that the brightness and approximate white balance and kind of contrast should be dialed in before you bring that file into Photoshop. We're using Lightroom, but you guys can be using ACR or Aperture or whatever you guys use to get that image kind of color corrected. So we're just going to brighten this image up just a tiny bit. I'm going to add a little more blacks to it. And we'll pull out a little bit of the reds and a little bit of the yellows just to kind of pull it down a slight bit. And that's great right there. We didn't really need to do much to it. I'm going to hit Control E to bring that into Photoshop now. So if you guys are in ACR or in Aperture, after you guys color correct, bring it into Photoshop. And now we're going to expand the base vintage pack so we can see everything. You guys can also use this in button mode if you guys like. Button mode will basically just give you kind of one-click buttons showing you all the different effects. We've color-coded everything so that it's easy to find. Bright washes are yellow, punches are orange, neutral washes are kind of this pink reddish, and then dark washes are blue. And then we have tweaks, which are all purple. And the tweaks are basically those final adjustments. I'm going to leave this in just kind of the regular mode just so it's easy to read and see for you guys. But feel free to use whatever mode you guys like better. Okay, now the action pack is very simple. Again, all we're doing is each action is a color plus an effect style. So we have 4 different effect styles: bright washes, neutral punches, neutral washes, and dark washes. Hopefully you guys have gone through the previous videos and you know exactly which ones are which. If you guys forget, just click on like bright wash or click on any of these titles, hit play, and it'll tell you exactly what it is. And we'll go through it as we're applying to, and I'll kind of just review for you guys. So when I see this image, the first thing I think it'd be really cool if this image were kind of like cross-processed and very bright, kind of faded. So that brings me to making it into a desaturated cross bright wash. So what this is going to do, it's going to desaturate the image, then it's going to cross-process it, it's going to brighten it, and then wash it out. So let's apply that and see what we get. Right away, I love this look. I think it looks really great right there. I can play with my opacity a little bit. I might raise it just a bit to increase the effect. And then now I'm going to use some tweaks to kind of finalize it. So what I want to do is maybe make a tweak to warm it up a little bit more. And then I'm going to adjust that tweak down just a tiny bit. And then let's say I want a little bit more contrast. So I'm just going to add a little contrast boost. And then we'll adjust that up so it's a little more powerful. And then from here, if I want to, say, add a vignette or whatever I need, I can go and add a classic radial vignette or a color burn vignette. Basically, the difference between these different vignettes is one, the shape. So radial is going to be a circle shape versus square, that's going to be kind of square edge. And then classic is going to kind of darken and gray out the edges versus a color burn that's going to basically burn down the colors of the edges. So more often than not, I'm using the color burn radial vignette. I'm going to apply that. And what I'm going to do so it's not too strong of an effect is I'm going to move it to the bottom. And that way all these different color adjustments are actually being made over that color burn. And so it basically isn't going to look like it's kind of out of place. I can adjust the strength of it. We'll say right to about 40% is great. And that's awesome right there. So you can see how this system works. Basically we're going to apply actions and then we're going to use tweaks to kind of finalize and perfect our look. A lot of times you don't need to use the tweaks, but they're there just in case. Let's try one other look with this. So I'm going to go and delete this. Let's go and do a punchy look. Maybe let's do a desaturated neutral punch. So what that's going to do is going to desaturate the image, and then it's going to make it, it's not going to increase the brightness because it's neutral, and then it's going to punch it up so it's very contrasty. So hit play on that, and that gives me a great look right there. I love that look. Let's say I want to tone it down just so I have a little bit more color. And that's pretty awesome. What I want to do now is maybe brighten it and then add a little bit of contrast to it. And I can do this. I can hold Control and click each of these items so that they're both selected, and when I hit play it's going to apply both at the same time. So now I'm going to just adjust my brightness a little bit down, and then contrast is great where it's at. I like that look. It's a really great look. We've created another look just in a few seconds using the same base vintage pack. Okay, let's delete these. We're going to hit Shift and select all the layers. I'm going to drop it into the trash can, and let's do one last one with a neutral wash. Now, the neutral washes basically are going to not brighten the image. They're going to keep it neutral as far as luminosity, and then it's going to wash out the effect. So let's do a desaturated cross neutral wash. So this is going to desaturate, cross process, keep the same brightness, and then wash out the image. Alright, that looks really cool the way it is. I'm going to just adjust the opacity a little bit more. Let's get it super washed out. I want it to be really washed. And then now let's just brighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to keep it a little brighter. We can go a little bit less if we want, just a tiny bit less of an effect. That's great. I think 70% is really nice there. And then let's do this. I want to do a slight desaturation. I'm going to tone that down a little bit so it's just barely desaturating. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a square vignette on a color burn on the bottom. So I'm just going to apply that, and if it's not in the right spot, I'm just going to drag it down one step so it's at the very bottom. And then we'll, oops, it didn't go to the bottom. Let me undo that by hitting Control Z and do it one more time. There we go. We'll adjust the opacity. I'm going to take it all the way up. And that's great right there. So we have a really nice faded and cross-process look to our image. If we want to do other things like maybe add grain to it, we can do that as well. I can hit granulate. We can add a layer of grain and then adjust the strength of that as well. So if I zoom in, you can see the grain layer that's layered over it. So you can see how simple it is to create exactly the look you want with each of these images and how easy it is to apply these actions. So as you guys come up with these different action recipes and kind of do what we call mixology, then be sure to share those mixology recipes with us on our mixology page so the entire community can kind of be edified by your creative genius. Alrighty guys, hope you guys enjoy. Take it easy.